All right, do we need to have our umbrellas handy this week? Crossing my fingers. Well, you know what? Get your umbrella one way or the other because it's either going to rain or it's going to be really, really hot, and that is exactly what happened this weekend. Why are you looking at me? We got to bring in the man, the myth, the legend, Landon Aydlett over there at the National Weather Service, whose team was probably having a ball. They were having the time of their life because the weather was so polar. Landon, actually, can you use the word polar when you describe like weather? I know that conveys a completely different thing, but Landon's here in the KOM News Zoom room, so let's go ahead and bring him in and talk about exactly what was going on with the weather yesterday, because yesterday's morning temperature, I felt like I was inside like either a sauna or a microwave, and then all of a sudden the sky opened up for like an hour, and then it got hot again. So Landon, what is up with that?
Yeah, that's definitely the seasonal weather. And we've talked about it a couple times on the link over the last couple of years.
I remember that show.
The island effect convection. I don't remember if you recall that, but it's like when we have these very light winds across the region, you get that daytime heating of the landmass, whereas the land heats up faster than the water surrounding it. You get that sea breeze, the winds come together over the island, they converge. And so when they converge, they have nowhere to go except up. And so that's what we saw yesterday happening with the very light winds over the region and that sea breeze set up. And so we had the convection right over the spine of the islands. And there was a ever so slightly a hint of a southwest breeze trying to push the stuff up over from the southwest to the northeast. That's where you had the showers and thunderstorms develop in the right late morning hours. You start seeing this cloud start developing over the middle of the island. And then that convection just kept going up vertically. You start getting the showers, you get the thunderstorms, and then it eventually disperses. And that's where we were yesterday. We had a heavy rainfall across parts of Central Islands. Most people saw very little rainfall at NCS where I was. I had maybe about a nickel of rainfall, 5/100ths of an inch. But the office here, we had 1.66 inches, and the rain gauge with the most rainfall was just shy of 3 inches of rainfall. That's in about a 2-hour period. So torrential rainfall in some areas. Other people saw nothing except sunny and dry. Southern parts of Guam, Mauricio, and Arahan, it was mostly sunny yesterday.
Okay, well, Landon, there's the key word, right? Torrential rainfall. Because do people in your profession actually consider, torrential rainfall? Is that kind of like what you get maybe in the, like right around maybe like Seattle, where like it's constantly raining, but the raindrops are really, really thin? Because I swear, yesterday, like I looked up once it started raining, I felt like someone threw like a water balloon in my face because the raindrops were like 2 pounds each.
Yeah, they were big drops. The torrential rainfall, Seattle, that's more of a obnoxious rainfall. It's kind of a nuisance. It's just hangs there. It's there and it lingers and it never goes away. It's like a bad cold. It comes and then it just never goes. And so that's the problem with Seattle, among others. But for the rainfall yesterday, that was heavy torrential. Think of like the eye wall of a typhoon, where you have like intense, heavy downpours, and it's just coming down, limited visibility. The water soaking up and standing up on the water on the roadways and low-lying areas, like our drainage pond. That'll fill up pretty rapidly in the torrential rainfall. The water's coming off the tarmac, flowing around a property into that drainage pond. And you have about 10 feet of water next to our office. Great for paddleboarding.
Okay, and then I know you have actually educated me and all of our viewers into saying, like, there's that very cliche phrase of just saying, like, it's coming down in sheets, right? But yesterday was one of those days when, like, if you were driving on the road like I was around like 11:15, you can actually see that you're about to drive into what looks like this huge cube of like nonstop water, like 5 feet in front of it. It's dry as a bone, but you can see this mass of rain coming at you. It's amazing that it's like that structured and that well put together.
Yeah, you can literally see like it's like a curtain, and you know that you're on the outside of it. It's dry, it's sunny and hot, and you're approaching that curtain. You can see all the splatter on the road surface, getting kind of like cloudy mist right at the road surface, and then you plow right into it. It's just immediately so loud on your car, and then you punch through it eventually on the other side if you keep driving. But those conditions, very dangerous if you're driving and you don't reduce your speed, because that visibility is going to go down really rapidly. And there's also ponding of water on the roadways where you can hydroplane. So make sure when you're approaching that curtain, that rain shaft, that you slow down and you prepare for it.
Well, absolutely. I know what, since you brought it up, one of the things that I know makes those driving conditions so scary is that when it's that hot and then all of a sudden the rain comes down, you also get like a lot of steam coming off the road. And, Guam's roadways can be like real slippery anyway. it's just exacerbated when you get that steam coming up. And I've you know what's crazy? I've always seen that on that strip of road from Manila heading into Chalampago, like right in front of FD. There, it's really, really bad. You still like there's just smoke.
Yes, and you see that steam, like that evaporative cooling on the hot road surface, and that starts evaporating, and you'll get that. Especially, it looks pretty cool when there's a little bit of a light wind just wisping it through. And of course, we're not seeing too much of that today as far as the heavy rainfall, but just some spotty stuff. The general wind flow is kind of like a monsoon pattern. So you're seeing the winds come up from the south southwest, and it's moving up over the island toward the northeast. So we have a similar wind flow to yesterday, except it's stronger in speeds today. So we're not going to see that development of showers and thunderstorms right over the spine of the island like we saw yesterday, but we're going to see the spotty stuff just pushing through. So most of us will see a shower or two today, but it's going to be moving right on by. And otherwise, it's not going to be quite the setup that we had yesterday. Heavier stuff is found to our west. That's part of like the monsoon tail that extends southward from a tropical disturbance well to our northwest. That disturbance poses no threat to us, fortunately, but we were talking about a hydrologic outlook over the weekend for the potential for heavy rainfall later this week. And that's exactly what that statement states, is it's an outlook for the potential. It doesn't mean it's guaranteed. Some people could see more rainfall than others, but there is a potential that we could see a lot of moisture across the region. But otherwise, it's really not a bad day today. It's going to be another hot, humid day today. So you're going to be cranking that air conditioner. And I know my air conditioning in the house is suffering. It's so hot in the house. And I never did get around to painting my roof like I was hoping to. It's just been too busy of a summer with the Tower for Humanity and then all the work trips. So my house is screaming at me. So
Landon,
one of these days,
like that old line from this is Final Tap. It's like, oh, and my aircon, this one goes to 11. You got to crank it up
that goes to 15.
Man, you know what? Thank your aircon. Your aircon is working really, really hard these days.
Yes, they are man's best friend out here this time of year. So, yeah, this is the wider picture of our visible imagery showing that tropical disturbance. That's Invest Area 92W is labeled by the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, and that is rated medium for development, which means that development to a tropical depression is likely, but beyond 24 hours. So we'll probably see this one develop into a tropical depression, maybe ultimately into a tropical storm. But as you see, it's well to our northwest, and that monsoon tail is sitting right over here. So if this feature was about 100, 150 miles farther west, we would see a lot more clouds, showers, and thunderstorms today. But as you can see, it's all right along 140 east longitude. This is part of a busier pattern to our north along 20 north, and farther north of that, this is Typhoon Muifa. That's the 14th tropical cyclone of 2022. That's spinning near Taiwan. This is following a track similar to Super Typhoon Hinamnor about a week or two ago that went towards Okinawa, then dropped down southward, freaked out the people in northern Luzon, and then did a 180 and went northward into the Korean Peninsula, caused a lot of problems up near Busan and Ulsan, Korea. And then farther to our east-northeast, that's a tropical storm 15W. It's not been named yet by the Japan Meteorological Agency. It will get its name once the JMA analyzes it as a tropical storm force tropical cyclone. So we have these triplets right here, the string of pearls, all to our north, and neither of these pose a direct threat to the Mariana Islands. So that is the good news. And there are no suspect areas farther to our south or southeast that would pose a threat to the Mariana Islands. So that's the good news. All the actions to our north.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Orion's belt there for fans of astronomy. Is it astronomy or astrology? I always get those backwards. But yeah, like almost like a perfect line of weather formations there.
Well, I'm closer to astrology, I guess. We kind of tell the future, and it could be good or bad. So.
Oh, that is yeah. When you zoomed in, man, that's a big sucker.
Yeah, that's our tropical storm. And of course, there's Wake Island, very small, but you can see it's a very disorganized system. So when you see the low level circulation, which is what we're seeing here in the visible, when it's exposed, it's like when you have somebody exposed in public, that's not a good thing. Well, this is exposed in the satellite. And so you want the vertical stack of the convection to be right over that low level circulation. And it's kind of an exposed low level circulation. So
right.
It's a very disorganized system, and that would have implications for a slow intensification trend. So if we see an exposed situation, approaching Guam and the Mariana Islands, that's of course not a bad thing because it means it's not going to be going into a rapid intensification trend on approach. But once you start seeing this low-level circulation being placed right under the deep convection, watch out because that's when things will happen.
Okay, so Len, I want to get back, if we can, if you'll permit me, if we can get back to kind of like the heat we've been experiencing right now. I mean, I see it all over social media. I was on Snapchat a ton this weekend. You know, people attending, you know, various memorials for Her Majesty's passing over in London. They said it's very, very hot. All my friends in the States, especially in California, they're like, man, it's a scorcher. They're all saying it's like 114, you know, like a 110, 104, 107, whatever. How come on Guam we never actually use the heat index? I was always curious about that. Like, you know, I mean, we always say, oh, you know, it's so humid out here, or, you know, it's you may Google something and they may say, you know, the temperature is like 86 but feels like 94. How do we actually calculate heat index for people that are, you know, just like armchair weather watchers?
Yeah, it's just a measure of the temperature and the humidity, what it feels like outside. And so if you have a much drier air mass, and we'll see that like in January, February, and March, these cold frontal systems will come down and not so much bring colder air, but it's a drier air mass. It feels a lot more temperate, but right when you have the temperatures elevated, the humidity is also elevated, that combines to make it a lot more comfortable outside. And so we put out the heat index on our surf forecast, like so on one of our text forecast bulletins that we issue twice a day. But we don't really pay too much attention to it until it crosses the 100-degree threshold. And I think our heat index for today is about 98 degrees. So that's what it feels like if you're walking outside. And of course, if you're like in a closed car that's been sitting idle in a parking lot, it's going to be much, much hotter inside of that car. But once we start getting up over 100 degrees or 101 degrees out here, as far as the heat index, that's when we start giving it more attention and we start communicating it more on our social media. We issue a heat advisory once the heat index gets up to 105. And that's really to send alert to people to take precautions if you can be outside, especially during construction or yard work. You want to take those breaks to hydrate yourself and also to cool off your body temperature.
Right. So it's not just about, you know, like we're experiencing very, very dry and very hot times. So, you know, you typically do a fantastic bang up job of warning people about, you know, there might be a fire weather watch warning or, you know, things of that nature. But you're also doing stuff, you know, for the average person. It's like, hey, take care of your own self, too, because, you know, you go outside, there's a good chance, you know, you could get dehydrated. You could possibly get like heat stroke. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that could go wrong. So you're just keeping people in the know.
Yeah, and this is, of course, September National Preparedness Month. And so we like to remind people of a number of hazards, whether it's from fire danger, heat danger, flash floods, the rainfall that we saw yesterday. Again, most of the island saw no rainfall, but you heard the thunder, you heard the showers and thunderstorms, and you could see the clouds. But select areas, they saw several inches of rainfall in a short period of time. And if you're in the southern mountains hiking, all that can come down rapidly, go through a valley and a creek and a river and cause flash floods. And so we didn't get any reports of it, but we know they were happening, especially in the southern parts of the island. So you have to be careful with that. When you see those dark storm clouds and you might be hiking, avoid the rivers because somewhere that heavy shower could be falling upstream of you and that water is going to be rushing through the river valley. And we've seen some viral videos out of Hawaii in recent years of these flash floods coming through the rivers and catching hikers by surprise. So always watch out for that.
Yeah. Well, Landon, I wanted to ask you something since I've got you on the line right now, right? And since you're in front of your computer, if I could trouble you to maybe bring up your own Facebook page, because, you know, we had the ladies from a Breaking Wave Theater Company here earlier, and they were talking about, you know, performing arts. You were actually putting something, you and your brother were on your respective Facebook timelines, talking about the Miss Saigon performances that were held recently.
Yes.
So how did
Well, we had a great time with that, and I didn't know my nephew was going to be a part of that. But I looked on my brother's Facebook page or my sister-in-law's Facebook page, and they had a picture of little Liam at one of the rehearsals. And so I was like, oh, really? So he's doing this too. Let me remember my password right quick. I'm trying to log in to my Facebook page. I hope that's it. But yeah, they brought in Liam
there's
to
no
play.
like weird like pictures of Kim Kardashian's butt or anything that might just like pop up.
Hopefully not. Let's see.
Joseph would really enjoy that, I'm sure.
Yeah, so we had a great time with the Miss Saigon play, and of course they wanted me. I think Jojo Okiko, the production director, he was asking if I could make a cameo into one of the scenes. This is like way early in the year, and I was like, you know, that would be great, but you're not going to like my rehearsal schedule because I am so busy through the summer. After the tower comes down, I'll be traveling for the next 2 or 3 months. And so ultimately they said, okay, that's fine. You can come in and join us. And we'll loop you in. It'll be pretty easy and fun to do. So I ended up doing my one scene, but every rehearsal, I made like 2 rehearsals. And then the event week for the dress rehearsals. And it was like so chaotic. I was like, oh, I can't do this. I've never been on stage. I've always been in the orchestra pit, but I ended up in 8 different scenes in 3 different outfits for the show and had a blast. So it was a great experience to be backstage and see what happens behind the scenes, what happens on stage, how it all choreographs comes together. It's so much fun. And plus be looking down on the orchestra from the stage. I was looking down on Brandon from above and was like, I see you in your orchestra pit. But the orchestra did a phenomenal job.
How was it to actually be in a play from that different perspective?
It was completely different. It was such a different perspective, and it was a lot of fun because there's so many moving parts, the dance steps, the acting, the scripts, the singing, the voices, choreographing it all. It's like information overload. But it was fun, and really to see it come together in the final rehearsals leading up to it, it was great. And so there's the family photo. So Brandon with the timpani playing the orchestra. Little Liam, he was Tam in the show. He was one of 2 Tams, the mixed American Vietnamese kid that eventually moves to America after his mother gives her life for him to have a better life moving forward. My gosh, it's such a tearjerker of a storyline. I did not know the storyline of Miss Saigon until I actually sat down and watched it. I skipped a rehearsal several years ago when it was last on Guam at Southern High School. I'm sitting in the auditorium during the rehearsal in tears. It's like such a tearjerker to watch this and know
very, very emotional.
The plot. And I was a G.I. Joe for several scenes, a tourist for another, and some other stuff for other scenes. So I was in and out of different costumes and stuff, but it was a lot of fun. So we had a
I was going to say, Landon, what you could do is you could actually take that picture of you and crop it and basically tell people that you were an extra in Saving Private Ryan, and they'd believe you. I
probably could do that. And so we had so much fun with that, and to really see it come together. We had such a good time.
Landon, our own Mike Villagomez has done some theater too. He was trying to star in like a Chamorro version of a Bloodsport, but that's in production right now.
Well, that would be fun. I definitely look forward to the next opportunity to get on stage and do something. But I will say the talent that came from Manila, from the Philippines, to be a part of this production, they were great. And this is me and my sister-in-law. It's like, she was acting up, and so you have to reprimand her from time to time. She likes to kid around too much. I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh. Well, you are a scientist, you are a public relations dynamo, and you are also a master not only of music but also of the main theater too, of the stage and everything. So we are always in awe of your many talents on the show, and we appreciate the time that you've given us again. Landon Aydlett of the National Weather Service telling you what is going on. So long story short, bring a umbrella no matter what the weather has for us this week, because it's either going to be hot or rainy. So Landon, we wish you and your team the very best, man. Have a good week.
Yep, welcome to Guam in the wet season. Thank you, Jason.
All right. For our show today, thank you so much for watching. Football is back, so I'm going to go and see if I can catch the second half of the Buccaneers and the Cowboys. We will see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.